Welcome to the Brentwood Voice. This is Jeff Hall. I'm the editor and CEO of Brentwood Voice. It's a new startup local news operation. I'm the guy who started the Brentwood News a long time ago, and I have with me today a guest, Jack Zalesny. Jack has invented something very interesting that's very local in focus. He lives here in Brentwood. And Jack, before you tell us about this new thing you've cooked up, tell us
hmm
about yourself. What's your background?
Yeah. I am actually originally from Ohio, but have lived in LA for 8 years now. Went to University of Southern California, and I have lived in Brentwood now for coming on 5 years, and love everything about it, and have been increasingly interested in the community and seeing how I can make an impact um, on the place we live and really like living at. So. Um, I work in real estate development and have a really strong interest in like, improving communities and making spaces the best they can for the people that live, shop, and work there. So I've created a company that is a community-driven platform. I'd say that lets people vote on what they want to occupy vacant retail spaces, as well as it's a platform where you can see what's coming to your neighborhood like what stores are opening soon. So I launched that about a week ago and gaining some traction, but I think it does a good job of meshing my interest in real estate, but also in community involvement and just improving spaces for everyone that lives there.
Great. So, what is it? What is it called? And start from there. Just, what is
Yeah.
this thing?
So it's called Vocal. The name comes from vote and local. We combine the two to make vocal, and then also just for vocalizing your opinion. Because, as I said, it's a we like to say community-driven platform where uh, locals can vote on what they want to fill vacant retail spaces. So it's actually an app is the interface where you can see vacant retail spaces in your area and you can select certain suggestions on what you would want to fill to occupy that vacant retail space. And then on the back end, we synthesize that data, we make some insights, create a dashboard that we then share to leasing brokers and landlords alike so they can make better leasing decisions based on what the community wants to fill those spaces. So I've been working on it for a few months now, but like I said, just recently launched specifically in Brentwood this past week with plans to expand neighborhood by neighborhood as we grab more attention.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand. So, if I walk by a store and it's empty and I've got
hmm
my phone in my hand, which everybody obviously does these days,
Yeah,
I could log on to your app and then I could vote on what I think ought to go into that location.
correct. Yeah. So you open up the app and we sift through vacant retail spaces every day. So ideally, it would be on the app already as a pin location, and you would see that pin where you're physically located, and you click on it, and it leads you through some prompts of what kind of category would you like, and then a little bit more specific from there, subcategory, and then lastly, a write-in where you can write text in any specific ideas you might have. And then, yeah, like I said, we aggregate all that voting data and supply it to decision makers.
Okay, so if I'm a decision maker, let's say I run a restaurant or I want to
Yeah,
run a restaurant and I'm looking for a location in Brentwood. I could go to you and you could tell me where to put it.
correct. Yeah, so it's really good for business owners and retailers as well, because like you said, in this case, let's say you have like a deli. You can specifically log onto the dashboard and say, use AI to say, where is there interest for a deli specifically in West LA or in Brentwood specifically? And what's interesting is that it has a suite by suite basis. So you can see which specific suites or spaces that there's interest for a deli. So in this case, a retailer can have a better sense of where they should open. They have more conviction on the location itself because there's already been proven demand by the people that live there and shop there. So to me, that feels like a very strong indicator for where they should open.
I find this idea really interesting for a personal reason. Uh,
hmm
in the Brentwood News, I've been writing columns for years and years and years, and I often write about what I think ought to go into a specific location or what I think Brentwood needs. Like
Yeah,
for the longest time, I said we needed a Mexican restaurant.
yeah,
Once in a while, either people listen or eventually people figure it out on their own. There was one that just went in called Tu Madre. It's on
right.
San Vicente, and every time I walk by, it seems like it's doing pretty
Yeah,
well. I think we need a brew pub here in Brentwood, someplace casual, because
yep.
Brentwood has become so she these days. And perhaps the greatest need of all, I think, in Brentwood is we have this Munger property on San Vicente that's been boarded up for over 10 years now.
Yep.
And I personally think a retirement home would be the best use of that property because there would be very little traffic impact. In the past, when Charlie Munger proposed a retail outlet called Green Hollow Square, he
Yeah.
ran into a lot of opposition from people, said, no, we don't want it because it's going to generate too much traffic. So every time I write about that in the Brentwood News, people tell me they think it's a great idea. So
Mhm.
maybe you can help me validate that.
Yeah, we can. I
What
mean,
do
like, it's an interesting point because, yeah, there is a aging population in Brentwood for sure that have lived there for a while. And not to my knowledge, there's not a retirement community located in Brentwood. So,
There isn't.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of interest for a project like that.
Well, you have a real estate development background. You can help me with this.
Yeah, we can. We can work something out.
Great. Okay, so let me by you another idea. So one thing I've never understood about real estate is people get faced with these huge rent increases. And I'm going to be
hmm
specific in this case. There's a place called Maria's up in Brentwood Village. It was
Yeah,
there for
familiar.
many decades and very popular. I love the place. And the owner told me that her rent was going from 20,000 a month, which sounds high to me, to 30,000 a month, which sounds super high. And she
Wow.
just determined she couldn't handle it anymore. So she left. She's now over in a Westwood location.
Yeah.
But why is it that a commercial real estate company would allow a building or a suite or a unit stay empty for 6 months or a year or even 2 or 3 years until somebody else finally comes along? It seems like they've lost a lot of rent in the near term.
Yeah, no, that's true. And somewhere like Brentwood, that's happening a lot where there's been a lot of increased demand for retail space, and there's just not a lot of it, frankly. So there's some retailers that are willing to pay more rent than others. And in the case of Maria's, my guess would be that what they left maybe a little under 2 years ago, year and a half ago, um, just when a lot of the new stores that were opening up in Brentwood, and there's Brentwood more became more on the map as it was before. So I think as all these new stores come in, a lot of them are very successful. They come from New York, they come from Beverly Hills to open up in Brentwood where they want to open, and I think they're just willing to spend more, and maybe they make have better margins or whatnot. So, yeah, in this case, I'm sure the owner of that property thought they might hold out for a better tenant to come in that might drive more traffic to the area, for example, than to renew Maria's for potentially like a 5 year, 10-year deal. So I think it's a risk that every real estate owner has to make at some point. But you're right, because when you hold out, when you decide not to renew a tenant in lieu of higher rent, you're foregoing that rent in the meantime and hoping that the amount of vacancy you have will be offset by the higher rent that someone you hope will eventually pay for that space.
You know, the Brentwood News used to have offices in Brentwood, and we paid rents. And once in a while, I would see a location that was open, and I would approach the real estate agent and say, "Look, I can't pay you your normal full rent. You know, maybe you're asking $4 a square foot."
Yeah,
I said, "What if I offer you $2 a square foot, but we'll move out the day you want us to move out when you rent it to somebody else who is willing to pay $4 a square foot," figuring that it might take them 6 months or a year or 2 or 3 years
yeah,
to figure that out, but never got anywhere with that idea.
really. Yeah, I mean it's interesting because sometimes it is a lot of work, a lot of legal work, you have to sign leases and the move-in costs and stuff like that. So everything in real estate is a negotiation, is what I'm learning. So it's worth a shot every time. But you're right, sometimes these owners like the opportunity cost for them isn't that high, but between keeping it vacant sometimes versus waiting out for a better tenant.
Yeah. Now you said something a moment ago that I wasn't really thinking about too much, but then one of my interns at Brentwood Voice mentioned it. In fact, she wrote an article about it. Her name is Josephine Strauch. She's a junior at Brentwood School.
Hmm.
And she said, Brentwood is the new it place. And I thought to myself, Brentwood, the it place? I mean, Brentwood's kind of a sleepy place as far as I know.
Yeah.
And she said, no, no, not anymore. Look at San Vicente and everything that's going on there. And it really opened my eyes. I started looking around and, God, everywhere you go now, there's something new opening up.
Yeah, it's true. Like I graduated from USC 5 years ago, and when my friends and I were looking where we should live, the typical places people would move to was West Hollywood, parts of Venice, where there's more bars, more things happening around there. But we decided to move to Brentwood, just because the location was great. We kind of liked how it was nice, but also kind of residential. And just in those last 5 years, it's crazy to see that now Brentwood has become the place where like post grads want to move. I have friends moving from out of town texting me from across the country being like, where in Brentwood should I move? Or it's become definitely a place that used to not be on the map, a little sleepy town versus to what it is now. And yeah, what drives with that is new interest from retailers and business owners alike. They want to be where all the migration's happening.
You know, just last night I was walking on San Vicente, probably around 7 o'clock p.m., and I walked by Neighborly. It's a new
Yeah,
place.
line out the door.
Yeah, total line out the door. They've only been open about 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
how do they do that? How do they attract a crowd so quickly?
You know, I'm not well versed in like the TikTok, Instagram of it all as I should be, but I know for a fact that they've been doing very well on the socials and have been getting a lot of traction from influencers alike, and that drives a lot of foot traffic. And I think, like I said, a lot of the post grads and younger people, Gen Z, now lives in Brentwood, and I think it's just a part of a trend how things work nowadays is you gain traction and you tell your friend and they want to see it and they post about it, and it's almost like a snowball effect. But to Neighborly's credit, I went there once and the food was great and I liked the atmosphere and it was a great place to go.
Yeah, I got invited opening day and they were fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to your app. That's really what you want to talk about, right? What is your long-term plan? What are you hoping happens here?
Yeah, so right now it's the app is very hyper local, so I think it can work in a lot of markets, but we want to test. I'm testing in Brentwood just because I live here and understand the real estate dynamics really well and understand like what's vacant, what's not. So long term, I can see it really expanding into almost any market because I think having that thought of I hope this would open here or I think this would go here is almost a universal instinct of a lot of people, not just people in Brentwood. So I plan to expand that as far as I can go and meet that need. So we're hoping to expand into Santa Monica here soon after we learn some things about the Brentwood pilot launch and see what worked well and what didn't. But yeah, I think if we can figure out how to create this data in a way that's really meaningful for brokers and whatnot, is our current focus, then I think we're solving two problems. One, the user and consumer not feeling like they don't have a need or that the local businesses aren't opening, they're not the stores that they want to open or meeting the demand of the neighborhood. And then on the landlord side is that sometimes you don't know what tenant works well here, or you want to bring in a tenant that people like and that will stay open so they don't close and you have more vacancy. So um, it's hard. We're trying to solve two problems at once. So once we figure out the best way to find the product market fit there, I think we can expand. And I mean, I don't want to create like a specific roadmap because I think everything can change, and I just want to create something that people like. But I think it's a good product for landlords, brokers alike, and also you mentioned in our example, retailers where they can do site. site scouting, see where they should open stores and even stores that haven't opened yet but are in the neighborhood. That's on the app as well. So it's a good platform for to advertise themselves before they open. Opening day information, maybe some promos or something. Because right now there's no platform for that. So there's a lot of ways we can go with it, but I think at the heart of it, it is a community-driven app. So even though I want to spread it nationwide, worldwide, however I can take it, I think at its core, it'll work hyper locally in each market.
Do you happen to have any visuals? Like, can you hold up your phone and show us how it works? Or
Yeah, of course. Let me see here. Let me connect my phone to my screen here. I can do a quick run through of what it looks like. Have you used it yourself, Jeff?
um, I did when I first met you a week or two ago.
Yeah,
I signed up for it. Yeah, and I think I helped you a little bit because I was the one who said there ought to be a write-in opportunity because
right.
what you allowed on the screen to me wasn't enough.
Yeah.
There was
No,
something that
that's great input. This is a stage right now where it's more user discovery and see what people like, and we're iterating on the app for that. So let's see. You see my screen here?
yep.
Right. So when you open the app, this is what you'll see. Just because we are only Brentwood right now, it's preset to this location, but you can see this a map of Brentwood with some pins on it. At the bottom here, we have some filters so you can see which storefronts are vacant, what's opening soon, anything that was newly added to the map, and then a voted option. So these are the spaces that you've actually voted on. So let's go through a vacant voting flow, for example. So we can filter by vacant and we can zoom in on a pin. And this is actually a space at the lawn here, which is a new development in Brentwood that has some retail vacancy. So we can click into this, see some pictures of the space. And like I said, it's space by space specific. So this one, for example, is, as the description says, in the back corner of the new laundry development, has this patio space. Um, when I first see this, I think it's a great space for maybe a restaurant or maybe like the pub that you mentioned, because there's some patio space here. There's some indoor outdoor opportunity. So that's where my mind goes when I see this. So let's submit that suggestion here. So you click the submit suggestion. Here's the overarching categories here. We'll go restaurant. And then since we're talking kind of about a pub or like a sports bar, maybe, I'd say that fall under like the American category. And then lastly, there's the write-in. So this is what anything you comes to mind. You can talk about price point, any specific brand or vibe you want to go for. So we'll say sports bar slash pub with TVs and alcohol. So you write that in, and then simple as that, submit your vote, and that gets added to the voting database. And you can see the overarching categories that other people are voting for. So it looks like actually American is doing pretty well at 24%, and then others at 29.
Now, is this real data?
This is real data. So this is what everyone else has voted for. And this is just a snippet of what the data we have, but I can show you here in a second what the dashboard that we're building looks like from the broker standpoint.
So people
So
are already using this app.
people are already using this app. Yeah, launched in the past week. We have about 100 plus downloads. That's building each day. So um, the app, like I said, works better the more people that vote and the more people that use it, because that data becomes more validating from the landlord or leasing perspective. And so yeah, these are all the properties I voted on. You can see there's a new vacancy that One Salon has moved. And so you can see here, and you can see what I voted for. I'm a big Kava fan, so would love to see a Kava there. You can click the real-time results and see what everyone else is voting on.
Wait, wait,
So
wait, wait. What is Kava?
Kava is like a Mediterranean Chipotle, a
Okay.
fast casual restaurant. So Other people want Mediterranean as well, it looks like, so that's good for me.
There is a Mediterranean up in Brentwood Village. It's called Zoom Zoom.
Tsum Tsum, yeah,
Zoom
it's
Zoom.
very good. So that's my my fixation when I want a fast casual Mediterranean restaurant.
So
So
you just want one on San Vicente, so it'll be
that's one.
closer to
I'm a
where
big
you
Cava fan
live.
specifically, so good chance I go there for lunch today. But yeah, as you can see, here are all the pins kind of lay out what's vacant, what's coming soon. And once a store opens, it leaves our database. And then it kind of gets pushed to Google and Yelp. So I think Vocal does a good job of in the storefront's life cycle, takes it from a vacant storefront to when it actually opens. That's where we are. So we help provide the data to landlords and brokers, retailers on what people want there. Once a lease is signed, we can help promote what's coming soon. So this is the coming soon database. So you can see, click on a store. This restaurant's opening soon, estimated in June, and you can see where it is on the map. It's taking over the old Sortino spot, and then you can even click on their website, and it'll take you to their website.
So based on what you know, the data you have accumulated so far, plus your own instincts because you know the neighborhood, what do you think is missing in Brentwood?
So it's funny you say that. Let me share my, or let's see here. I wanna, can you still see my screen?
Yep.
So this is a database that I'll eventually be sharing with brokers and stuff. So this is kind of an overall what's happening in the market. So this is Brentwood specifically. We click here. You can see how many total votes there are, unique voters, and whatnot. So you can see that most people want a restaurant, number one vote, and then specifically a Mexican or American restaurant, it looks like.
Yep.
So you can see what the overall consumer demand is by category.
Now stop
And
for one
then,
second. Stop for one second. Scroll back up again. Stop.
yeah.
All right. So you're showing what kind of restaurant down below if you scroll down just a tiny bit.
Hmm.
It's almost like become a joke here in Brentwood that we have a ridiculous number of Italian restaurants, and yet here we have 7 votes for yet another Italian restaurant.
Some people just really like their Italian food, Jeff. I don't know what to tell you. I thought that was interesting too, but at least there's not any more coffee shops recommended on here because I think we've hit our plateau there as well. But you
Yeah,
can see there's a lot of interest for the lawn specifically. There's
yeah,
42 votes, so we click in there, and then we have AI analyze all the voting data specifically for the lawn. And as that loads, you can see specifically what people want at the lawn. And this is all AI generated from our database.
very cool.
Yeah. So this is interesting because you can see market by market. Once we expand to Santa Monica, we'll have a Santa Monica option, but there's no properties there yet. And I think this would be a good platform for retailers, landlords to make better decision making based on what the community wants. So
Definitely. I got to tell you, there have been so many times I've seen a new store open up, a new restaurant, a new retail establishment, a clothing store, whatever. I can look at it and tell you in 5 seconds if I think it's going to work or not,
yeah,
because I feel like I know Brentwood very well and I can look at something and say, oh no, that poor guy is never going to survive. Or
right.
other new concepts, I'll say, yeah, that's going to be a winner.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think I think you have a good taste for it since you've been here for so long. But what I've learned is that that's just an instinct people have. They want things to open in their neighborhood that they like. And there's never been a place to vocalize, if you will, vocalize that opinion. So I'm trying to create a platform for that and almost solve that problem also from the landlord side that this prevents the store from opening that, like you said, might never make it. And that's a big risk for a landlord as well. Bringing in a tenant that no one wants. Not only do they have to pay tenant improvement costs to build out the space for them, but if they don't last, then you have more vacancy, more turnover, and that's just not what you want as a landlord. So uh, the problem is twofold, and we're trying to solve both of them.
Go over that one more time. What is the problem that is twofold?
the from the user perspective, consumer perspective, that stores aren't opening, that doesn't reflect what they actually want. And then from the landlord perspective, putting in tenants that the community doesn't want because there's a lot of risks in bringing in a tenant that no one wants because the landlord oftentimes has to pay for the tenant improvement space, so they have to build out the space for the tenant, which can cost a lot of money, up to like $100, $200 per square foot. But if they're only open for a year or two because there's not a lot of demand for it, then they close, and now the landlord doesn't have anyone paying rent, and they just paid $100 a square foot to build out the space that they'll likely have to do again when a new tenant comes in. So getting that right and getting a tenant that people want and that will stay is crucial from the landlord's perspective. And it's better for the community as well. If you have less vacancy and retailers and stores that people want to go to, I think it creates a better environment for everyone.
Interesting. Now, did you build this yourself or did you hire people who build apps for a living?
I've built this, yeah. So with the help of AI, of course, but I think it's funny. I've come a long way from just this idea in my head as a real estate developer. I'm using Excel all day and I know how to analyze numbers really well, but I've learned how to build out these dashboards and store all this data and synthesize it in a way that's I think interesting for decision makers. So um,
Have you talked to any real estate professionals to ask them if they'd be interested in this?
yeah, a lot. When I did a lot when I first started because, like I said, I work in real estate and we bought a retail center, and I was asking um, our leasing agent. I was like, "Oh, what do people want in the community? What do people want at this space? It's attached to an office building, this retail space. Have you asked any of the office tenants what kind of coffee shop they want?" He's like, "No, we don't actually pull people specifically. We take data from what works in other areas and apply it here." And that felt odd to me. So the more people I talked to, they said, yeah, that this data point doesn't exist as of now. And I think it would be something interesting to have in conjunction with other data they have. Because there's a lot of things that go into making a leasing decision, but actual hard data that consumers want is missing in that decision-making process. And I think it's one of the most valuable pieces of information that a broker could have. So the brokers I have talked to, they love the idea, but it only works the more people that vote and the more people that download the app. So it's kind of chicken and the egg problem here. You gotta make sure from the user standpoint that there's a lot of votes that create a compelling story and conviction in a retail concept so that that data becomes more useful for retail brokers and whatnot. So at the moment, I'm in touch with some of the leasing brokers in Brentwood. As we accumulate more votes, we're going to present this data to them and uh, hopefully get something that we want. Maybe we'll finally get that pub.
You're going to buy the first beer, right?
Of course, yeah, on me.
Now, I got to tell you, just again, this is instinctual data, not real data. But I think what Brentwood really wants is a casual hangout where it's okay to drink a beer, throw your
Yeah.
peanut shells on the floor. You know, we used to have this place called Regular John's a million years ago, and it was pretty down and dirty by Brentwood standards, but people loved it. The place was packed all the time, and on weekends, all the kids and their parents would come after a Little League game or a soccer game and hang out, and the kids would play pinball machines. This was like pre-video games, I think.
Yeah.
And then we had another place called Early World. It was a coffee shop. That was great, very casual, very hometown. Everybody hung out there. It was a great place to meet. I think the
Hmm.
Coral Tree Cafe does a really good job of gathering community. There was something else called Marjam's Deli over in the Country Mart. Again, very popular, but I don't know why these restaurants that seem to work so well just one day just kind of disappear.
Yeah. I mean, my friends and I would agree with you wholeheartedly that there's a lack of places to grab a beer with a friend or a burger and watch a game or something in Brentwood that's more casual than like a Voltaire, for example, that's there. So yeah, for that we have to take an Uber or something to Santa Monica or Venice. But I think Brentwood's going through a shift right now where a lot of the younger demographic is moving to Brentwood, and I think there has to be a shift in the Brentwood Community Council's mindset of we can't just make decision based on what the population demographics used to look like. I think a lot of this traffic is driven by a younger demographic that want a place to hang out, that want to get a drink lit past midnight even on San Vicente. So hopefully that mindset changes soon because I think that that whatever concept opens up that meets that need will do really well.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of that. Years ago, the powers that be in Brentwood didn't like the idea of outdoor dining. And there was a restaurant called Creation that was on San Vicente. I think that's where Neighborly is now.
Yeah, one of those
Uh,
spaces. Yeah.
And they set up a bunch of tables and chairs outside. And I wrote an article in the Brentwood News saying how charming I thought this was. It felt like Rome or Paris, you know.
Yeah.
And I got hammered by a few people saying, no, 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 we don't want that in Brentwood. Well, then COVID came along and we were all forced to eat outside, and outdoor dining became a spectacular hit. And
Yeah.
now people want it. You know, we're having a conversation right now about a new restaurant called Toroni that's going in Brentwood Village, and
Yep.
they want to have a bunch of outdoor dining, and some people are um, questioning that, but we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. We're blessed with great weather all year round, and I'd like to take advantage of that. And I think a lot of people else agree with you.
Yeah. Now, could you tailor your app so that if people wanted to vote on like local political issues or potholes that need to be fixed or anything at all that's on their mind, could you do that with your app, or do you just want to stay strictly real estate?
I've come from a real estate background, and I think I know I have good real estate instincts and whatnot, and have the connections with brokers. So I think in the short term, at least, I want to keep it real estate focused. I think it's important for especially apps starting out that it has a core identity and it kind of sticks with that and maybe can grow over time. But yeah, there's no reason why it couldn't be because I think that's a feature that also drives community input and whatnot. It's hard because you want to stay, like I said, stay focused to what your goal and mission is. And I think right now our goal is to create a better community for people, which means that the stores that open up are stores that they want and there's less vacancy. So if we start doing more like civil polls and stuff, that might be going to like the neighborhood apps domain and potentially one day. But I think in the short term, short to medium term, we like to keep it real estate focused.
Very good. Jack, we are out of time, and I just want to thank you for your presentation today. I think it's really interesting, and we all wish you well.
Yeah,
And with that, that's this episode of Brentwood Voice, and we'll see you next time.
great. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.